Thank you, Isolina. And certainly, it is a pleasure being here today. Of course, when we meet in the ACP, we sometimes start late, but not because of security. So please, I will invite you to come back to the ACP whenever you're ready to come back, and I'm sure we'll be starting earlier than today. Je vais faire mon intervention.
Now, I'm going to be speaking French, and I think that you're given the wrong instructions. French is on Channel 3, English is on 2, but I'm sure that you will get it sorted out. As I was saying, it's a pleasure to be here at another briefing with the European Commission. I was saying to my neighbour here that we're not looking good on meeting SDG 5, gender equality. Because apart from Isolina, I think everyone here at the moment is male. That's unusual for the CTA, but maybe circumstances have dictated this. Usually, we try to be representative of gender balance when we organize this kind of meeting. I'd like to also welcome ACP member countries here. I see many of the ambassadors of ACP countries here and members of the different delegations. Welcome. It's important that you be here. For us in the ACP Secretariat, we do like to have our member states present at this kind of briefing because they, after all, are the ones who benefit, but who also make decisions in designing programs and implementing projects to enable you to achieve the targets that we all signed up to in 2015. The first goal, of course, is to eliminate poverty, and there are various lines of activity to achieve this, but Sustainable Development Goal number 2 is a particular subject of today's briefing, and last year it caused some concern when we saw in the FAO report that after several consecutive years of decline in the number of people suffering hunger around the world, at the end of 2016 we saw an increase in the absolute number of those who are undernourished and who face hunger. Usually this kind of situation arises in developing countries or the least developed countries, but in 2016, as the report shows, the upturn involved a number of countries at intermediate stages of development, including the small island states. And for us in that group, this is worrying because you will not be unaware that when we advocate their cause, we regularly say that we must be careful not to have fall into the poverty trap again, those who are already getting out of it. All our policies must converge to ensure that we have a ratchet effect so that those who have moved beyond that don't fall back into the trap. I see colleagues from the FAO are here today. Maybe they'll have good news for us and will be able to tell us that things are again on the right track and that we again are seeing a downward trend in the numbers affected by hunger. I'm not going to speak at great length. Perhaps I'll just tell you about what we're doing in the ACP and in partnership with our European Commission colleagues in order to make our contribution to the activities intended to reduce the number of people suffering from hunger around the world. As of last year, we stepped up activities launched over 20 years ago to encourage the private sector, which includes farmers' organizations and smallholders' organizations, because we feel if we don't have something specially designed for those groups, it'll be difficult to stay on course and achieve our target. We stepped it up by placing a special emphasis on projects to provide much more direct financial aid to smallholders. There are many initiatives in the different countries, particularly those who voluntarily decide to return to the land, as we say, but unfortunately don't get the necessary support from the in situ funding organizations. We've launched some of these ourselves, and last week or 10 days ago in Rome now, we launched some others with the FIDA. But as I say, we're stepping these up now. We had already launched this 20 years ago with the FAO, but also the CTA. But now, in the last 3 or 4 years, we seem to have a much more consistent investment framework. And this should now enable us to provide support and advice to the smallholders and encourage them to group in cooperatives and make sustainable financial mechanisms available to them and make them a less risky proposition for investors. I know, too, that we have the ACF here, too. We worked together in Tanzania some 10 years ago when your representatives told us you were launching your organization. I see now that you have really grown and you've brought together many different partners in the ACF. And we're very pleased to hear about such initiatives multiplying. I think it's only if that happens that you'll be able to take over from what colleagues in government have been trying to do. The final point where we think action is needed is in insurance mechanisms. Governments do what they can, but if we are to really remove the risk for investors in agriculture, where investors are not prepared to become active and where governments cannot do all they can because of, except when catastrophes occur or climate change impacts occur, we need to ensure that those exposed to various risks, like hurricanes and so on, can benefit from insurance mechanisms. And we need more research into this in order to find the most appropriate means so that we have a coherent whole with investment, with what our governments put in place, but so that the private sector too can become involved. We think that it's only if we have that, and indeed SDG 17 calls on us to cooperate, but we think it's only if we really do this that we'll be able to achieve the objectives we set, the goals we set ourselves. The information we have doesn't seem that reassuring. Perhaps once we have better statistics or better at data collecting, we'll be able to make much more consistent policies. Once we've got the right kind of data and all the data we need, we'll be able to design things properly. We're not there yet, but we need to all get down to work and speed up our efforts so that we'll be in a position to provide an optimistic and faithful report in a few years' time and in 10 years' time too, when we reach the end of the course we've set ourselves. And I think that that's all I'll say for the moment. Thank you.